Hello everybody, my name is Nathan, and I am the man with a cartoon obsession. Since the first viewer-voted review this time around was on a superhero cartoon, it only makes sense that the other one is on the anime equivalent, that being a magical girl anime. Let's get right into my anime review of Magic Knight Rayearth. Magic Knight Rayearth is an anime series based on the manga of the same name. The series ran from October 17, 1994 to November 27, 1995. It consisted of 49 episodes and spanned over the course of 2 seasons. The series was produced by TMS, and it was originally licensed and dubbed by the Ocean Group, but that dub was never officially released. Media Blasters later picked up the license, and the series was dubbed by Bang Zoom Entertainment, but the series is currently licensed by Discotech Media here in North America. It also has a video game, which as of recording is currently one of the most expensive games on the US Sega Saturn. There's also a 3-part OVA, which I don't really like all that much. It tells a completely different story than the series, which is fine, but it just lacks any sort of personality or charm. The English dub for it isn't that good either, but it was licensed by a different company and featured a whole new cast. The series also had a pilot. There's not much to say about it, as it's only about 5 minutes long and it's just a bunch of exposition over a montage. It doesn't have an English dub, and I couldn't find a version that had subtitles, except for YouTube's terrible closed captions, so I don't have a clue what the narrator says in the pilot. It's not really that important though, I watched it after I already watched the series, so I got the idea. I can, however, tell you what the series is about. I said this was a magical girl anime, but it's more like magical girl meets isekai meets mecha, I guess. I'll explain it the best I can. I'll also throw in a spoiler alert just in case, despite the fact that this series is over 25 years old. Well, in a nutshell, the story follows 3 girls who get transported from Tokyo Tower to a world called Sephiroth, also known as the Land of the Will. That's where the isekai part comes in. The girls then receive magical powers from Master Mage Clef in order to become the Magic Knights, defeat Lord Zagato, and save Princess Emerald. That's where the magical girl part comes in. And on their journey, they have to encounter the 3 Mashin or rune gods in the dub in order to become the Magic Knights. The rune gods take the forms of giant mecha and engage in battle, which of course is where the mecha part comes in. It's an interesting blend of genres, I'll definitely give them credit where it's due for that. And honestly, these genres coincide better than I thought they would. There are some other interesting aspects to this anime as well. For starters, there aren't transformation sequences in every episode like I would usually expect in a magical girl anime. That's not to say that they don't have them fairly frequently, but not every single episode. It also doesn't fall into that monster of the week trope that other shows of that variety do. Well, it does at first, but as the show progresses it strays away from that. The show plays out like a JRPG, and they even mention that in the show. After all, the Magic Knights are fighting to save a princess, they battle monsters, grind, and level up their armor and weapons. It really does feel like a JRPG in anime form, which is cool. Other things I like include the mech fights. We see more of them in Season 2 than in Season 1, but I think they look nice, and they give me that Saturday morning action cartoon feeling, which I'm always a sucker for. As for plot points, there are several of them that I found predictable, but that didn't make the show feel boring. Without giving too much away, there was a twist villain, and I use that term loosely, at the end of the first season that I didn't see coming, but I liked. While I don't fully understand why that character is a villain, and there are other questions I have about that character in general, the whole thing caught me off guard, and I have to give the show credit for that. The show even gets a little deep at times, especially when it touches on the burden of being the princess and pillar of Sephiroth. Enough about the plot, let's get into the characters. Starting with the girls selected to become the Magic Knights, we have Hikaru Shido. This is completely unrelated, but I can't see or hear that name without thinking of AEW wrestler Hikaru Shida. Anyway, she becomes the leader of the group. She's tomboyish and headstrong, but also friendly and compassionate. She always rushes into dangerous situations without thinking, but she does it to help people and save or protect the ones she cares about, with little to no regard for her own safety. That's both reckless and noble. The color schemes for the 3 girls make it obvious what types of magic they end up receiving, by the way, so since her color scheme is red, Hikaru obviously receives fire magic. I also wanted to see if the girls' names correlated with their magic too, and turns out they do, since Hikaru means to shine. I think Hikaru is a good leader. She may not think everything through, and she may put the needs and well-being of others over her own, even to a fault, but I think she's a good character and a strong lead for the series. Next is Umi Ryuzaki, who for some reason I was expecting to be the cold and stoic one out of the three. I was completely wrong, especially since none of the Magic Knights fit that description. Umi is stuck up in the beginning and a bit of a priss, but she's still kind-hearted and she becomes much more tolerable as the show goes on. Her color scheme is blue and her name means sea or ocean, so Umi obviously receives water magic. Umi's a good member of the group as well. She may be a little dense, and she definitely took a little while to grow on me, but she became one of my favorite characters in the whole show. The final Magic Knight is Fu Hooji. She's the rational member of the group. She likes to think everything through, she speaks formally and politely to everybody she meets, and she has a habit of pointing out the obvious, which I get a kick out of. Since her color scheme is green and her name means wind, Fu obviously receives, yup, you guessed it, wind magic. Fu's another good character. She's very kind and polite like I said before, but if I really want to nitpick, she has a healing spell, which usually signifies the dull character or the Mary Sue or whatever label you want to put on it. But her healing spell has limitations and it's not overused, so I can't really knock her for that. Some characters they interact with are Master Mage Clef, who bestows their magical powers upon them, Persea, the blacksmith who makes their weapons and armor, Fario, a nomadic warrior who helps the girls out several times, and Makona, a magical being who assists the girls on their quest. He has the power to create just about anything, which is useful, but it isn't really utilized in the second season. And I can't forget to mention that Makona is smooth with the ladies.
What do you want?
A couple other characters I like are Eagle Vision, who was introduced in Season 2, and Lantis, who was also introduced in Season 2. They both serve big purposes in Season 2, and I don't really want to get too far into that because, like I said, I'm trying not to spoil much, but they are main characters in the second season. As for some of the villains, there's Lord Zagato, who's fine. I don't really have a strong opinion on him one way or the other. Same with Lady Debonair. The worst villain in the show, in my opinion, is Alcyone. She's a useless henchman, and she's just really annoying. My favorite villain, though, is definitely Nova. She comes in during the second season, and she is one of the most interesting characters the show has to offer, in my opinion. She's the most sadistic villain in the show, but she has a whole other side to her that I find intriguing. The only other character in the show I didn't really like besides Alcyone was Primera, a fairy who serves as Lantis' guardian. Honestly, though, she doesn't offer a whole lot. She's not seen much, and when she is, she's just being annoying. The show looks really good, and I think the animation holds up well enough, despite some pretty noticeable errors and inconsistencies. They don't happen often enough for it to hinder the series too much. A little visual gag I want to mention is when we see Hikaru in chibi form, she gets cat ears and a tail. She's the only character that happens to, and that doesn't happen as much, if at all, in Season 2. Then again, the second season has a more serious tone to it than the first, so it makes sense. I like the music in this show quite a bit, especially the opening and ending songs. Well, 2 out of 3 of them. The second opening and ending aren't that great compared to the other 2. On to the voice acting now. The delivery of some of these lines can be questionable. According to Wikipedia, the dub was released in 2001. This was still at a time when dubs could be iffy, so it's not too surprising to have some of the corny and downright hilarious delivery we get from time to time. But I still like the dub overall. Not in a so bad it's good way either. I actually think the dub is pretty solid. Besides, there are a lot of comedic aspects to this anime, so the vocal delivery just complements that in places. Not every character's voice is a winner, but there are more hits than misses in that department. I will say though, I hate the accents Caldina and the others from her country speak with in the dub.
Oh, it's all gonna be just fine now. I'll make sure you get to see her again.
Some of the standout performances for me are Julie Madalena as Hikaru, Wendy Lee as Umi, Bridget Hoffman as Fu, Jerry Gelb as Eagle, and Lex Lang as Lantis. All of these performances are enjoyable for me, and they all sound pretty unique. Again, this is an older dub, so it is a little campy, but that's part of the charm in my opinion. There are some things in the show that I don't fully understand. The biggest one being the fact that Sephiroth is the land of the will, which means if you want something to happen, it will. That concept seems broken to me, but it also makes for some questionable logic. Enemies are easy to defeat, and transporting between worlds is confusing. Another thing that's confusing is Clef used the taking candy from a baby idiom in one episode, but when Persea was handed a piece of candy in an earlier episode, she didn't know what it was exactly. That's a very small nitpick though, it's probably just a translation error, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Also, in Season 1, Umi understands what Makona says, but in Season 2, Hikaru does somehow. The show also overuses this trope of a character saying something, whoever they're talking to not hearing it, and it just being brushed off. It gets a little irritating, and I don't understand what purpose it serves. The last thing I want to mention is that the censorship choices are strange. They'll censor things like kissing and when some blows land in fight scenes, but they won't censor when a character is bleeding, even if they're bleeding profusely. Since this is an older anime, censorship is to be expected, but I don't get why they were so selective about it. I also don't know if that's just in the dubbed version or if the original is the same way. If anyone has watched the original Japanese audio version, feel free to let me know. All in all, despite the show's flaws, I had fun with it. I'm pretty sure I've said this in previous videos, but I love it when shows have magical elements. Granted, that doesn't automatically make a show good, but this one was enjoyable. It feels unique compared to some of the other magical girl anime, especially of its time. I don't know if it's a show for everybody, but it's definitely a show for people who are into magical girls, giant mech fights, and that classic Saturday morning anime feeling. Overall, I give Magic Knight Rayearth a 7 out of 10. For those of you who weren't aware, this was actually the second time I put this show on a viewer-voted poll. Now that I've reviewed it, it will be retired from the pool. This was a fun round of viewer-voted reviews though, and it's been my favorite so far if I'm being honest. I'm looking forward to the next one, which will take place later this year. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you have any other cartoons, anime, or other animated works that you want me to talk about in the future, please let me know. After all, it's not my channel, it's our channel. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and feel free to check out my social media pages, audition for an outro, and join the official Cartoon Obsession Discord. The links for all of which are in your description below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
Hi, I'm Hinata Yuga from Naruto, and thank you for watching Cartoon Obsession.